Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Series 2 of the XTI Experience Live show. Today, we're going out live across LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and in a few weeks, we'll be wrapping in even Clubhouse as soon as I've figured out how we connect it all up. Well, ladies and gents, it's been a few weeks, but if you hadn't noticed, it's getting pretty busy out there and new project kicking off, and our services team has gone pretty inundated. So apologies for the delay in getting back on live. Each week on a Monday, either at breakfast or at lunchtime Pacific, we will be talking to some of the great hands-on thought leaders across tech and industry. Welcome. Yes, on the XTI Experience show, as ever, we are pushing the boundaries of technology and constantly talking about the new Industry 4.0, smart technologies, and of course, our very favorite industries. This week's show, we're starting the series in the incredibly disruptive automotive ACES sector, and more specifically, we're focusing on arguably the greatest disruptor for that sector, which is artificial intelligence and robotics. I'm joined today by Simon Shetty, who is the Technical Program Manager for AI Robotics at Nuro, ex-Tesla and a founding team member at Lyft's self-driving team. He's an immigrant entrepreneur who heads the product team at also Resume Puppy and has been awarded the Einstein Visa or EB-1A green card. He's now helping others to get in under a similar smart green card operation. Let's talk automotive ACES, AI, robotics, and smart green card. Ready, set, go. Hey Simon, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Doing good. Welcome to the show. How's life at Nuro treating you?
Exciting, adventurous, and fun as always.
And groundbreaking, I got to say. You guys are nicely positioned for the changing mindset that's been appearing over the last 15 months. I even saw your Domino's pizza ad today. What was that all about?
It's about this recent launch that we did in Houston with Domino's. It's super fun. You all should go check it out. There's a lot of press about it as well, and super exciting times.
So that's these little autonomous vehicles moving around Houston, delivering pizzas, etc. Yeah?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so today we're going to cover three main areas. Firstly, we've got our 3-minute quick fire round to cover who you are, some brief views on mobility, and grabbing the opportunities in the land of opportunity. Then we're going to move quickly into the main event and talk AI robotics in automotive. And lastly, just to finish up on intrapreneurism and entrepreneurism in the land of opportunity and how you can bring yourself over here to create a business, create a career in a smarter way. Lastly, everyone, please leave any thoughts, leave any comments, questions in that little comment section before you, whether you're on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. And we'll try to get to those as the show proceeds. So everyone, if we are ready, take a deep breath. Simon, if you're ready, let's go. Let's get the quick fire round underway. We're going to have 3 minutes with 7 or 8 quick fire questions. If you're ready, let's go. So why did you come to the US?
Well, growing up as a kid in rural India, I saw the US as a place from where all the cutting edge things happen, right? Most of the cutting edge things, at least. And when I looked around and looked at the brands and the products around me, a lot of these tied, their roots to either Silicon Valley or, in general, an American sort of source, right? So, and I wanted to be part of that impact. I wanted to see what it is about and why it is so, and what is this whole cutting edge thing about. And that's the reason I moved to the US and came here to do my master's and stayed along, being part of all these interesting things that are going on here.
Got it. So the US is still arguably the land of opportunity, all things considered, holistically speaking. How did you get yourself to come here? How did you manage to get through that kind of visa process?
Yeah, so I came to the US as a student for my master's, specialized in control systems, electrical engineering, then graduated, worked for a couple small businesses in Atlanta, then moved to Silicon Valley, where I was part of like an amazing company called Tesla. I think back then Teslas were like lesser known than now, but that really set the ground for being like very mission driven, knowing how things how work gets done in the automotive industry, and especially in this cutting edge industry. And then since then.
So why choose automotive? Why choose robotics and AI?
This is arguably the sort of next wave of things that's coming in, right? Like look at the internet, look at the evolution of the transistor and integrated circuits before that. This is going to be the next wave, and it's only exciting to be part of that wave.
Got it. So what technology is going to have the greatest impact and why in the automotive sector?
I think there are a couple things. One is electrification and moving towards sustainable transport or sustainable energy in general. That's one. And the bigger economic impact and something that will impact our day-to-day lives is the whole autonomous vehicle space and the economic effects that it will bring in making transportation more accessible and inexpensive.
Got it. Okay. So look, you're a young guy. If you were out there looking for a young person, would you hire someone who'd been through multiple jobs or someone who had just maybe one or two over the last 5 to 10 years?
I think while hiring, the biggest thing that we look for is how able is the person to get the job done. And as long as that is ensured, no matter anything else, good to go.
Okay. All right. So ignore that one. We're out of time. I'm going to ask you this last question. What is the best organization you've worked for and why?
I've always loved to be part of a startup and a very sort of steadfast kind of pace, environment where I get to contribute, wear multiple hats, get to contribute in every way I possibly can. And pretty much all the places that I've been at until now have afforded me the opportunity to wear multiple hats, give all I've got, and make a difference in the end product. So I must say I'm very lucky to be part of these companies that I've been a part of.
Okay, so no names, just you would love the startup culture. I get it. Okay, fine. All right, let's move on. Let's get into the main event. Let's get into the meat of things. Automotive. The last 15 months have been an interesting time where you've got a lot of the legacy automotive companies out there. You've got a lot of these EV startups, some of which must have been through a pretty tough time over the last 15 months. And then, of course, some of those are just going to come through stronger and better, I'm sure. Maybe we see consolidation, maybe we don't. I don't know. But what do you see going on in the ACES world in relation to AI and robotics?
So if you look at all these companies around you, especially in self-driving, right? 2020 and 2021, despite the pandemic, have been like, I think this will go down in history as a landmark couple years where self-driving as a technology became like you got over that hump of proving, and also the economic side, because contactless deliveries and contactless transportation and all of these became a necessity than a nice to have at this point in time. So it also added as a came in as a forcing function to give a economic validator of that solution as well, right? So in general, I think these 2 years will go down history as the couple years when self-driving actually, or autonomous vehicles actually became a thing and became validated. And from this point, I think there will be like a huge inflection of companies and services that get launched in that area.
Got it. And how quickly do you see that whole kind of service mobility model starting to really get some traction, or are you already seeing it?
I think it depends on the industry, right? Like if you think about robotics in general, if you see, like, let's say housekeeping or house home cleaning, that kind of thing, you already have adopted, people are increasingly adopting these robots in their sort of whatever very simplest form, in like the vacuuming robots and things like that, which are already being adopted pretty widely. So adoption is pretty much there. Now, if you look at the extreme other end of things, like, okay, autonomous space exploration or something like that, that's definitely going to be like, I don't know, a bunch of decades, right? Or maybe a century. But then if you look at self-driving vehicles, I think it's going to be another, like, to a point, to get it to a point where it influences our lives in an economic manner, probably another 5 years, something like that.
But of course, mobility as a service is not necessarily autonomous driving. I mean, you can still have somebody there driving it, but do you really see people moving into mobility as a service when the car is still a status symbol, when it is still that kind of, look at what's parked on my driveway? How quickly do you see people actually starting to say, I don't want to own that, I don't care about that status symbol, it's just a more efficient way is to be mobility as a service?
So if you look at other alternate industries, like for example, I'll just give you a couple examples. One is the food industry, where you can buy bread, or you can be very artisanal making your bread, or you can buy artisan bread, or you can buy production bread, right? But maybe once in a while you'd like to bake your own artisan bread, get artisan bread, but then for the most part you'll rely on the more economical, more quick, more shelf life, just because production bread, just because it just serves your purpose better, right? Similarly, if you want to have a vehicle that you want to drive around, definitely, by all means, you'll be able to do that. I don't think it's going to go away. Just like you can have a horse cart and stables taking care of horses instead of a car, right? But in the long run, humanity in general tends towards what is more convenient, what by definition makes more sense in an economic manner. Yeah. And that will be, mobility as a service, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of people who just love driving. There's no doubt about it. But as you say, that's probably going to be more of the horse owner of tomorrow, the hobby. Take it out for a blast and have some fun with it. But of course, what has to happen is the price of mobility as a service has to come down, as well as convenience and costs. So, yeah, as soon as possible. Okay. What mistakes are being made in the current business model when it comes to AI and robotics in automotive?
Yeah, in general, right, in the AI and robotics space, or automotive space, not naming any companies, totally totally general in the space. Yeah. I think one of the common mistakes companies or people or teams do is stick to, like, anyone sticking to a longer term goal of being fossil fuel driven, I think is at a disadvantage in general, because this is the point when governments have realized it. There are countries bringing in regulations to move towards an electric or a more sustainable future. There are companies realizing it and moving their product lines towards more electric. And there are companies who have already validated that. So I think anyone sticking to fossil fuels or any technology in the long run that keeps chipping away at fossil fuels to make it a little more efficient, versus you have clearly a home run on the other side, which is electric, I think is at a disadvantage. But more so, because of this approach, even if you move towards electric, right, there might be some organizational challenges which might prevail for long, which is only human to do so, right? Like where there are a bunch of teams, and then the organizational structures kind of evolved into your electric product or sustainable energy product as well. At that point, you're just making a sustainable energy product, but then there are all those inefficiencies that drive up the cost of this instead of down, and make it more difficult for you to sustain as a team or sustain as a company. And I think these two things, organizational inefficiencies, to get rid of those and to think about the whole electrification thing as like from a fresh piece of paper standpoint. And also,
what are some of those efficiencies that you're seeing?
So, for example, and I know Elon Musk has publicly talked about this as well. If you have, let's say, if you can pack a bunch of cells into a battery pack, right, and be able to deliver the same amount of reliability and efficiency in the vehicle, then why do you necessarily need to pack it into modules? So if you are probably shipping it cross country, or if the reliability of that battery pack has not necessarily been proven, where you want to swap out the battery modules for each other, then it makes sense. But if you have proven, like, let's say you reach a state where you prove millions of miles of reliability on a battery pack, at that point the module becomes irrelevant, right? Like, you can literally package your cells in a better form in the final product. At that point, you have the pack team. Now, what do you do with the pack team? Oh, I gotta have like a pack-like structure in my battery, what do you do with the module team, right? I need to have like a module-like structure in the battery pack just to give these people work to do, or to like reuse some designs and things like that, which are at times smart things to do, but in the grand scheme of things, I think this will only add those inefficiencies into your entire design process.
You bet. Interesting. So that's the cell to pack is the blade, as it's called by one of the manufacturers, I seem to recall. I understand. Got it. Good. So what do you now see as the formula for success in the automotive space that you've experienced so far?
I think thinking an extreme emphasis on the end customer and what will truly benefit the customer is very important. Otherwise, when you see, take the example of some legacy software or legacy operating system companies, and look at like how SaaS or like all these other new age cloud-based technologies have like literally beaten them in their game in many forms, right? I think the same thing will happen in case of any industry. There are cutting edge things that give these new companies a massive leverage over these traditional companies, and they actually need to exert more force on themselves to move towards this than less resting on their laurels.
Okay. And how do we? So if you talk AI, you talk robotics. It's got some great benefits, but equally it could be misused. How do we protect and nurture these incredible technologies now moving forward?
I think the topic of regulation of AI is also as debated as AI taking away jobs topic, right? So I think in terms of regulation, I believe any technology, if it has like a possibility of harming people in general, there have to be certain regulations around it, just to make sure that technology is more trusted. And when you build that trust, there is more adoption, and then that it's like a positive reinforcement cycle, versus, hey, I'm not going to touch this because this is, some shady person out there is like trying to creep over my data or something like that, right? But if you look at it as a data privacy problem or a data security problem, I think the main difference coming to automotive or autonomous vehicles and robotics is the fact that autonomous vehicles and robotics bring a physical manifestation of what problem we already had. Let's say, like when we share our data with Google or generally on the cloud, right? You will be concerned about your privacy or payment information and all of that. So we already have this problem. A lot of minds working on this data privacy and security problem already. and then the self-driving world is bringing this physical manifestation. Now, instead of hacking your bank account details, what if someone hacks the vehicle and puts you in danger, right? That is your physical self being put in active danger, and that is an important thing. And I think there's more decentralization that we have seen in the whole security space as well, the data privacy space as well, which might come into the robotics space, where you approach the hardware layer and try to understand what are those fundamental things that we can do at a very grassroots level, like bare bones hardware layer, that will prevent any such malicious attacks from actually playing out in the real world, right?
Yeah. I got to say, I think protecting your data, which I know is a big issue between Apple and Facebook right now as they go at each other, but generally speaking, it's a generational thing. I think, my generation, maybe a few older than us, we're a little data protective. Maybe we've come from a different government period of trust, distrust, etc. But I think generally the younger you get, the less protective of data, because I think kind of people have grown up already giving it to Google, already giving it to Apple and Amazon, etc. But equally, I think everyone's got to be afraid of, what if someone takes over my car? What if AI takes over my car? Something similar. So I get you. Exactly. It's a big one. And I think it's that safety side that someone else is in control that is probably the biggest one we've all got to overcome.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then at some point, people will be crashing more than autonomous vehicles, and everybody will accept, I guess. So that's just the way things go. Okay. The future of ACEs, AI and robotics. What do you see as that being over the short term, be that the next 5 years? What do you see that over the next 10 years? And what do you see long term? What's the future of ACEs, AI and robotics?
I think in the near term, there will be all of these overlying questions around data privacy, jobs, and all of these things, until they are proven out and demonstrated in some manifestation of robots, right? And there are studies, there are academic studies already out there that say, robots will, the whole self-driving and robotics space will in fact create more jobs and create a lot of efficiencies and jobs than take away. And we can see this through history as well, given our evolution as humans. But to answer your question, Andrew, I think in the longer term, there will, if you're talking about like autonomous spacecrafts and stuff like that, that's, like I said, like a few decades. But I think in 5 years or so, we might see mobility as a service becoming more and more relevant. And the way robotics and self-driving has an impact on everyday lives, if we should like make a decision to buy a car, or just do away with all those headaches and just hop in a vehicle that you pay for the service, and it still ends up being cheaper than the general approach. I think
exactly.
That is the shift that we're going to see.
Because 99.9% of vehicles are a depreciating asset. So why just throw more money after it?
Yeah, with a utility factor less than 10%, and probably less than 5%.
Yeah. Imagine the last 15 months it's been sitting out there and doing nothing and just going down in value. I agree. That's great. Simon, we've got questions piling in. I want to jump into those. Let's contextualize some of the thoughts that you've given us so far. Let's pull up some of these questions. First one. Okay, I don't know if Simon can go there on this one. Obviously, you've got a lot of confidential stuff going in at Neuro. I guess it comes down to the same thing, which is in this whole kind of EV autonomous sector. What are you seeing out there as the greatest challenges, excluding Neuro, which I guess is confidential?
Yeah, in anything I say from this point, I'm not necessarily talking anything about Neuro or any secret stuff that my previous employers have been working. I'm only able to comment on these topics in general, right? So in general, I think on a human adoption side, there is going to be that adoption driving problem, that like every time I put a post out on LinkedIn about self-driving and robotics and look at the comments, there's probably like 1 or 2 people who comment, hey, I'm never going to give my data to this thing, or I'm never going to be a part of this thing. So there is a good amount of work to do in general as an industry to drive adoption. Okay, but that's more of the adoption problem. But from a technological problem, what drives that adoption better is building more robust and reliable technology that gives you the confidence to hop on it. Now, if you were asked to hop on a tube that will fly across the
I think we just lost a bit of Simon there. Hopefully you'll be back.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're coming back in now. You're good. Go for it again. You were just saying something about something flying.
Yeah, so if you were asked to hop on a tube and fly across the Atlantic for like 7 or 8 hours, a few years, like let's say a century ago, you probably wouldn't do that, right? But now it's like next to common, like an everyday practice that people do. Adoption is one of the greatest challenges that we all as an industry need. Yeah.
Same old. It's getting people to change. To change. I get it. Great. Good. Thank you, Umi, for your question. Next question from Andrew Austin. When can we, I don't know if you can answer this, when can you expect the R2 on our local streets? Was it the R2 delivering Domino's pizzas?
Yeah, that's I can't answer any neuro specific questions.
I got it.
Feel free to send a direct email to Neuro, and our team will be happy to answer these.
Beautiful. But the R2 was the Domino pizza ad, was it? So it's kind of making good headway. Great to see. I saw that. Okay, next question. From Elena, what are the common misconceptions about AI?
The biggest misconception, I think, is that this is going to be an overnight phenomenon that will just, wipe everyone's jobs away, which is not
like the internet. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, which is not necessarily the case. Like if you look at the physical manifestation of AI, you will have like society has moved from a more hardware development approach in like the 70s and the 80s, probably even the 90s, to in the 2000s, there has been this boom in software or non-hardware kind of industries, which spread at the speed of light, right? Like literally what you need is an internet connection, and your technology spreads at the speed of electrons. And then now we are coming back to, okay, we've probably hit the limits of it. Now, how do we bring the hardware back in and make use of all the developments that we have already made and bring it to a hardware manifestation? So that hardware component makes it even more challenging to propagate at the speed of light, right? And even when things propagated at the speed of light, there were adoption things and there were other things that we needed to take care of.
Got it. Good. So, great. Yeah. Thanks, Elena. Let's go to the next question. From Ninad Gike. I pronounced that right, Ninad. How do you see prospects of L4, L5 autonomous systems in long-haul trucking?
Again, this is my personal opinion. I feel like long-haul trucking might see automation much sooner than city, street, like everyday transport kind of things, for 2 reasons. One is that there's a lot of like reliable and repeatable scenarios that you go through when you do long-haul trucking, right? Especially if you limit your operational design domain to just highways only. And that's where Tesla started with autopilot as well, right? Highways only to begin with. And the second thing is the economics also makes sense because if you are hauling cargo, your liabilities are relatively lower than you hauling humans or human lives within the transport, right? So from that perspective, also the problem becomes relatively easier. Not too much easy, but relatively. So I think L4 and L5 in long-haul trucking might be some of the first adoptions of self-driving vehicles that we might be seeing.
Yep. Yeah. And do you see that as EV, hydrogen?
Regardless, I think these are two disjoint problems. Although being electric, or having an electric powertrain, does help a little bit in self-driving, because you have greater control, lesser latency, that kind of thing. But in general, I think the whole autonomy and electrification are relatively disjoint problems.
Okay.
You can make a gas guzzler autonomous as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there is an infrastructure for that at the moment. So anyways, that's another conversation. So next question. Thank you, Nina. What do we got? What next? Or I'll pull it up. Okay, I'm in. Let's go with, hopefully, I got a question here for you from Andre Alexandru Marin. How coupled is autonomous driving software development going forward to the electric drivetrain model?
I think in general, if you develop like a self-driving stack, the points of contention between like it being usable for an electric and a gasoline powertrain might be related to controls, related to your vehicle model. It might be related to the actuation side of things versus the perception side of things. So again, I'm not claiming to be like a complete expert in the controls of perception space, but I think you will still have solved a good bunch of problems on a gasoline powertrain, especially when it comes to perception. And then you'll have to take care of like the other things, which the electric powertrain gives you a better way to do things. It's not like you're regressing. It's like you have to figure out ways to make use of that better control, the better torque, the better performance that it offers, and propel your vehicle that way.
Got it. Okay. Good. I've got one here. I'm not sure if we can go here, but from Sagar Tiwari. Hey, Simon, big fan of your diverse experiences and LinkedIn feed. Congratulations. You are active out there, I got to say. Number one, let's take a look at it. Impacts of neuro food delivery programs on human drivers. Will they coexist or get completely absorbed by autonomous delivery vehicles? Is that something you're able to answer?
Again, both these questions kind of seem specific to neuro. So I think
would the lower speed of neuro robots be an issue for other vehicles sharing the lane? Okay, so we're gonna bypass that one and get into market.
I can give a couple pointers here in general, right?
Okay.
There's a question about like speeds and stuff like that. So I think it all has to come down to like breaking your complex problem down into what you actually want to solve in the near term, and then making a roadmap towards where you want to go and stuff like that. And that will then determine like what performance you need in your vehicles in general. So that's usually how this breakdown is done in any industry, for that matter. But as far as like food delivery and impact on humans and things like that, I mean, in general, robots and the influence of robots on human jobs and stuff like that is a debated topic. And there are several studies out there which I can probably link you to that show that robots are actually going to improve the overall economics of how humans do things.
Got it. Great. One here, interesting one. AJ Originals. What is narrow AI and general AI?
Not entirely sure how to answer this. Not sure what it means.
Give that one a miss. Okay. Can we see next one from AJ? Can we see hybrid of hydrogen with electric? Have you seen that?
You mean on the roads? If it is like on the roads, then I think we are already seeing that, right? In at least a small scale, we are seeing like a bunch of hydrogen vehicles, a lot more electric vehicles coexist on the road. So definitely that is something we'll see. But then in terms of like the long-term viability, I do see some infrastructural issues with hydrogen, where electricity, you can literally transport it in the speed of, with the speed of light or speed of electrons. and you have an infrastructure already for that, stuff like that. For hydrogen, it's again like highly flammable gas that you need to, or liquid hydrogen, whatever, that you need to transport through new infrastructure that needs to get built, new vending stations that need to get built, all these additional things. It's pretty much, I think, like a gasoline, but a cleaner version or something like that.
Yep, correct. Yep, when I was looking at the other day, funnily enough. Okay, we're going to take in the last couple of questions, which is how challenging is building an autonomous vehicle in countries like India where minimal traffic regulations are followed?
This is an interesting question I get all the time, and there are a couple points I have to make regarding this. One is, as far as like traffic regulations being followed and things like that, in the ideal state where pretty much all vehicles are autonomous, I think it'll only solve problems. But then there is this interim state between now and then, right? So this is, in my opinion, a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs in India, or entrepreneurs anywhere really, to figure out what bridges. So you have clearly pointed out a problem, and then a certain subset of that problem, or the superset of that problem, is already being solved with like all these innovations in self-driving that's coming around, right? Like perception and things like that. And then you clearly have a certain market out there that is more receptive to cheaper transport, obviously. Now, how do you develop some solution? I'm just talking about it in a black box sense right now, but is it possible for you to design some solution that literally sits in between, and then you vend this solution to these thousands of companies that are doing self-driving in the West, probably, or in countries with better infrastructure, and they hook your solution up with their product, and then that unlocks India as a market for them. Now, imagine the potential that will carry. Now, I'm not proposing that I know exactly what that solution is, but imagine unlocking a billion-plus people market to these like companies with your solution, and imagine how much money you'll be able to make with that. So I think this is a great opportunity that you have to look at and grasp and try to solve for.
Absolutely, it's technology and it's going to happen. You're not going to beat it. So yeah. And good luck to the person who finds the solution to that issue. I agree. Good. Last couple of questions we got coming in. Ninad Gike is a 101 level question on AI ML algorithms. Working in a powertrain company, I come across a lot of startups who use AI to solve problems for which equivalent physics models exist. Do you have any advice for such startups?
I'm trying to digest this question better.
Yeah, I get you.
In my experience, what I've seen in general is that in the current state of how we have AI, like our ML, it does aid, like having better tools to crunch your data. It does aid, making business decisions, and also really making decisions on a product level, like technical decisions on a product level. Like, for example, you crunch your data of failure over time, and then like you use that to make decisions and stuff like that. But we are yet to see an AI, or even GPT-3 in the software manifestation. Yeah, you can give it some commands and it'll build something for you. It's not necessarily extremely advanced, right? And for that to happen in the hardware world, I think, which is the question being asked here, it's going to take some time. It's not, it's going to take some time where you type in literally what you want, and there's a 3D printer or some contraption, some sort of machine that will literally make it for you. It's going to take a while.
Got it. Good. Last question before we bounce to what else you are up to. Which are some of the economic frontiers you are targeting to overcome and are investing in your technology?
Not sure what this means exactly, but if it's referring to neuro, again, I can't talk much about that.
Yeah, it sounds, maybe it's something macroeconomic, but not sure we got you on that one, Dushyant. Apologies.
I think I have one comment. I can make one comment here. So imagine, like, there are governments investing billions of dollars around the world to build roads to extremely rural areas. Now, why is that? That's because it's a well understood fact from centuries now that better connectivity leads to better economics and better prosperity for people, right? And the whole self-driving industry brings an economic impact on the way we make transportation accessible to people and connectivity accessible to people, right? And I think that is the key thing here. When people have better access to transportation, more affordable access to transportation, they can get farther to find work. Their sort of green zone increases from like around them, and that's how we can unlock this potential that people have.
Got it. Good. Thank you. Thanks again, Simon. Okay, so we're going to move on because you've got. And by the way, everyone, if you've got other questions, please just keep throwing them in the comments because Simon and I can jump back into those comments after the show and answer some of those to the best of our ability. So watch out for those as well, Simon. You'll get to see them. All right, so let's move into something else, which I know you're very passionate about. The work permit, getting into the land of opportunity in the US. We all know the H-1B lottery and the amount of people who go through that experience. I think I looked at something the other day and it takes on average 20, maybe it was 30 years to get your green card. In actual fact, I think you failed in your H-1B application. I think you've been through that. You've been putting something together. In fact, you got yourself in here on a very unique visa. Tell us a little bit about that and the business that you've got being created to help people, these super intelligent, great people that we need over here.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. I think if you pinpoint pretty much any lack of luck in immigration that you think of, in US immigration that you can think of, I've probably gone through that. Like, for example, I failed at an H-1B lottery, even like, EADs not, arriving on time, taking a lot of time to arrive, and, hassles due to that and things like that. All of these things are literally things that I faced, right? And I have had to craft my journey very creatively in making use of the extraordinary ability visa routes, which is the O1A and the EB1A green card. And I think it basically comes down to this, right? The US definitely has a path for people to be meritorious, gain recognition for that merit, and then pursue an immigration path that secures your future in the US. So definitely that exists. And what I'm trying to do here is to help people to plan very strategically and, well ahead of time to legitimately build their profile up by doing great work, by gaining recognition for all that awesome work that they did, and qualifying for these visas that do not need you in the first place to be dependent on luck in an H-1B lottery or waiting around for like 20, 25, 30, sometimes I think 50 years is what some estimates say in waiting for your green card. So I think, my story is nothing but that, right? Like, where I was willing to work hard.
And this is called the Einstein visa? Is that official, or is that a nickname?
Einstein visa is actually like a colloquial nickname for the EB1A green card route. And using the course that I have right now, which is the Smart Green Card, you can access it on smartgreencard.com, is a way where you can pursue that. And there's a lot of things, a lot of nuances that I had to face in this pursuit, and I've like broken them down into literally those digestible chunks, and strategically what you can do every step of your way to make sure that in the grand scheme of things you end up qualifying at the end, and you don't waste your time doing all these other things that rumors say, or things like that. This is literally what's worked for me, and I know it can work for you, and I want to help you with that. So how long
did it take, by the way? How long did it take from start to finish to get your Einstein visa?
About a year and a half, something like that. Yeah.
That's good. That's impressive. That's impressive. www.smartgreencard.com. Check it out. That is Simon's business, and hopefully he can help you getting your Einstein visa to get yourself into the US. Anything more you wanted to add on that, Simon? You good?
Yeah, this is good. Go ahead and take a look at that. Yeah.
Great. Simon Shetty, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Big thanks to you. Best of luck with AI, robotics, and the smartgreencard.com business. Keep those questions coming in. Simon, you can jump into that feed, hopefully get back to as many people as you possibly can. Thanks again. I appreciate you joining us on the show.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, great.
Please, if you want to stay updated on these nuances and everything exciting that's going on in the space, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. I'm always active and available on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out or follow me on LinkedIn. Yeah, you
are indeed. That's great. Good. Thank you. And everyone, if you need any expert help on that whole kind of ideation, product lifecycle, smart manufacturing side of things, let me know. It'll be exciting. It'd be an honor and a privilege to work with you. Lastly, next week, we stay in ACES, but we look at another accelerating business model that really has started to get some great traction during the pandemic, which is micro mobility. We're joined by John Lee, Vice President of Product for Indigo Technologies. Pretty much same time, same place next week. Have a great week ahead. See you then. Thanks.